Welcome back to another episode of the Supernaturals. We're your hosts, Jake, and that's Cal.
Howdy.
And we got a little Sully in here again. He's like the pod dog now.
Yeah, he is. Welcome, everybody. Pop open your drinks, because today we're getting saucy.
Or pour yourself a drink.
Or pour yourself a drink. Today we're getting naughty.
Naughty. Naughty.
No, we are going to talk about some pretty messed up stuff here.
As we do on this show.
As we do on this little pod. It's kind of sad. Jake and I were talking about like, you know, more specials and like, are we ever going to run out of ideas? And I, you know, was just like, the unfortunate thing is that people die every day. Like you'll find.
Immediately dark.
It is sad. It's a sad thing. But a lot of it is really like uncommon. Sure, you know, I mean, people die old age and things like that. But when you get like killed by somebody else, or you like, it's interesting to know, why did somebody do that?
Mm-hmm. Get into like the minds of them, right?
Yeah.
Because it's hard to understand coming from, you know,
I would
someone
say,
with a sane mind.
Yeah, most people don't want to kill people. I would say. But
they might get pissed at them.
Yeah, you might
maybe
get mad.
Punch them.
What, take their life? Hell no.
Yeah,
so
that's extreme. Oh.
What?
I said that's just extreme.
Oh, yeah. No, it is, man. Some wild shizzle. So, we hope that you've been enjoying season 2 so far. We have. It's been dark. It's been mysterious. It's been a ride,
to say the least. That's it. And that's all it is. That's where we leave it.
Sorry, guys. It's early this morning.
My brain isn't fully on yet. I don't know.
It is quite early today.
This is my first cup of coffee, so I'm trying to wake up, you know?
Early pod day. But depending on, you know, if you're listening to us in the morning, you know, cool. Some coffee in you.
It is snowing right now. That's pretty cool. It is
kind of sick, so that's cool. But today we're going to talk about a lot of it. We're going to talk a lot about a certain guy who did some really messed up stuff. Some really, probably the worst you could do, or one of the worst things you could do.
Mm-hmm.
Because, Jake, do you love your family?
What kind of question is that?
Apparently one that needs to be answered for some people.
Let me put it this way.
Yeah.
I talk to my mom almost every day.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
My dad and I are close. My brother and I are close. My sister and I are close.
Yeah.
And all related parties with them, like my brother-in-law, my brother's girlfriend, you know, my grandparents, aunts, uncles. We're all really close as much as you can. Like, there's no problems. There's no issues, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's actually just a nice, comfortable family in today's age, which is, I would say, quite rare now.
I would say so. I think, a lot there. I mean, I've been seeing a lot of memes where it's like, oh, you know, you don't have to be kind with your like family that you were born in, but like you can choose your own family. I'm like, I mean, I get that, you know, there's certain things
you still
that maybe
don't choose your own family.
No, but I'm saying like, you know, family is a big deal to me. I would say, I think it's been a big deal for my family too. I mean, there's definitely certain family members I don't talk to as much as others, sure, but it's like
them or nothing though, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I grew up with these people. We're part of the same family. I mean, that's as close as you could possibly get.
They helped you survive, you know?
Uh-huh. And if you don't have a family, then the cool thing is that you can make your own.
You can find a love interest. Mm-hmm. You can even have friends that are you consider family.
I consider Jake here family. I consider his brother family. Mm-hmm. I consider his family my family. I do. I consider your family my second family.
Yep. Yeah, when you're welcomed into someone's home with ease.
Yeah.
That's like one
especially
of the
when you
best
know them
things.
for like 20 something years.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I've known you guys for
it goes way back,
3/4 of my life.
So, in all, to answer the question at hand though here.
Yeah.
Of course, I love my family.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm blessed every day for it.
See, the unfortunate thing is that there are people out there who, for some reason, attack their family.
And I can never understand that.
It's a horrible thing that doesn't happen very often, thankfully, but it does happen. And today we're going to be talking about one of the most infamous cases that included this type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a cool transition, don't you think?
It is crazy to think about how you can think that someone loves you and then they can do very brutal and horrific things to you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sad. But I mean, we've talked about that before on the podcast. For example, the Halloween episode, or one of the Halloween episodes we did, where the dad put poison or whatever in his son's pixie sticks that he got for trick or treat because he took out a life insurance policy. Like, yeah, homie, what? that's nuts.
I'm really struggling for money like that. Come on.
I know, dude.
There's so many other types of things you could do that don't involve harming somebody,
especially your kid.
Yeah,
never mind.
It's interesting though, because I feel like it would be, now it's kind of a crappy thing to think about, but you would think and expect that to be like he took the life insurance out on his wife or something, rather than his kid.
That's a little bit more believable than like a kid.
Yeah, it seems crazy.
Yeah, because a kid is, I mean, I don't have kids, but from what I've heard
you have a different connection with somebody that you create, right?
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah.
I've been told that. I would assume it to be true.
Then again, if you remember back to our Valentine's episode and somebody just threw out a baby in a box and said, "Here you go." Like, that's true.
That is true.
What the hell? Like, that doesn't make sense. There's just so many shitty people out there, and it's just insane, dude, how people can think like that. But that's why we're talking about this stuff.
And that is why we have our theme. Head on a swivel, people. Always.
Yes.
Have to.
Head on a swivel.
And it's tough because these are supposed to be the people you trust. They're your family.
Mm-hmm.
And they do you wrong.
Exactly. So let's get into the nit and gritty. You've probably read the title. I would hope so. Oh, today we're talking about Amityville.
Dun, dun, dun.
So grab your drinks, grab a snack, get snuggy, and enjoy.
Turn the lights down low.
What does he say? Baby, lock them doors and turn them lights down low.
Something like that.
All right. When thinking about some of the most bone-chilling cases in America, it's hard not to think of Amityville. And us being a podcast about all things horror, how could we not talk about the Amityville case? If you don't know, Amityville began as a horrifying and tragic story involving a family. The sad reality, though, is that the tragic stories like this happen kind of often. So you may be asking, what exactly pulls the Amityville case apart from others? It's what occurs after the events of the fateful night that truly make it one of the most, if not the most famous case in the United States. All starting on November 13th, 1974.
It's quite interesting that a lot of these things that, are talked about today happen in the 50s to 80s, primarily.
There's a massive,
there's things that have happened nowadays, right? But that was like the peak, I feel.
It does feel like everything that happens now is on a bigger scale than so then these things that happen like this kind of fall by the wayside. You know what I mean? So anyway, November 13th, 1974. In the quiet town of Amityville in Long Island, New York, there stood a 3-story suburban home. It featured 2 quarter circle windows at the top. At the time, those windows would mean nothing. But after this fateful night, those windows would make this home one of the most recognizable houses in the world. Inside the home was a large family, the DeFeos. Ronald and Louise, both 43, and their children, Ronald Jr., 23, Dawn, 18, Allison, 13, Mark, 12, and John, 9. Ronald Jr. awoke that morning, took a shower, and headed to work. But when he came home, he noticed something was wrong. He headed down to Henry's bar around 6:30 and shouted, "Somebody help me, I think my mother and father have been shot." A handful of people put their beers down and followed Ronald to his parents' home, which stood tall at 112 Ocean Avenue. They entered the home and went directly to Ronald's parents' room to find that they had indeed been shot and killed. Joe, Ronald's friend, made a quick call to the police. When law enforcement arrived and searched the house, they made a horrific discovery that every other member of the family had also been shot and killed. The children were all shot once, while the parents had been shot twice, all with the same .35 caliber lever-action rifle. Evidence had gathered that while most of them were shot in their sleep, Louise and her daughter Allison were awake. The Suffolk County Police Department had also stated that every member of the family was laying face down in their bed. In his hysterical state, Ronald Jr., also known as Butch, had told police that it was the mob that killed his family. He was then taken to the police station for his own protection. There, he had given authorities the name of one Louis Fellini, who he had told them was a mafia hitman. Police were able to quickly track down Fellini, and he gave them an airtight alibi which showed he wasn't even close to the home on the night of the murders. In fact, Fellini wasn't even in the same state. So after some more inconsistencies in his interviews, Ronald Jr. finally decided to come clean. He admitted to killing each and every one of his family members in the early hours of November 13th, 1974. During his confession, he stated, quote, "Once I started, I just couldn't stop. It went so fast." End quote. He then proceeded to say that he discarded his bloody clothes and the rifle and cartridges and showered and then went to work like nothing ever happened. Thoughts?
It is wild that one person would try to do that, right? That's wild in itself. However, the fact that he tried to play it off as he didn't do it and just tried to play a normal day in life, like, how do you even think like that?
I know.
That's crazy. You just go to work that day, nothing ever happened. And also his story's not lining up with the mob man.
Yeah.
Like, dude, he just tried to throw something to see if it
Literally.
would stick, right? And it did not work out because he had no idea what this guy was doing. And then if you're going to come clean, why do you come clean afterwards?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like a very odd thing.
It is strange. It's also what, like and again, I mean, we'll talk about what happened and stuff, but his motivations are never really clear. He doesn't really have a motivation for why he did this. And it's just a really messed up situation. It's like he obviously wasn't right in the head, but
well, clearly
also like, but it's his family. Like his like siblings were
his siblings, his parents.
His siblings were young.
Everyone was face down on the bed too.
Yeah. So
did he place them that way?
So that's probably no, because so that's something that I can't remember if I put it in the research, but he like, so I looked at all of the crime photos. Mm-hmm. They're available online. I don't recommend, but they, in researching a case like this, it is interesting to see kind of the whole story. And I mean, reading about it is one thing, but actually seeing it is something else entirely. So I saw all the crime photos, and unfortunately, yeah, they were all face down. They were all shot once in the back, and the parents were shot twice. But it's also like, I don't know. It's
If you're unhappy with your life, man.
no, it just doesn't. It doesn't make any sense at all of why he would have done this. Which, we'll talk about later, but it's so haunting.
It really is. Like, why take out other innocent people? It's just so bizarre to comprehend.
Yeah. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just am having a hard time thinking about how someone just moves on with their day after just doing that to somebody else. It just is crazy.
Yeah, it's
It's very sad.
horrible thing that I hope nobody has to go through.
Well, yeah. I mean, his siblings didn't even get to live to be adults. They didn't get to experience any part of life.
I know. Especially the youngest one.
John?
Yeah, 9 years old. Like, I'm sure he had nothing. Like, there was
Would he be like a fourth grader?
He couldn't have done anything that could have pissed somebody off like that.
I know.
So the dude was just, and then he said, once I started, I just couldn't stop. Like, Jesus, dude. Asshole.
It's hard to get into a mind of a killer.
So, we're moving on to the trial and conviction here. So Ronald Jr. actually went to trial and was defended by William Weber. The two of them got together with a psychiatrist, Jesus Christ, Daniel Schwartz. Yeah, Daniel Schwartz. And after some discussion and the fact that Ronald claimed to not even remember the fact that he killed his entire family, they all set out to plead insanity. However, Dr. Harold Zolan, who was working with the prosecution, brought up Ronald's past abuse with drugs like heroin and LSD and had also claimed to have an anti-anxiety disorder. Because of these facts, the obvious contradictions to his story, it was clearly evident for Judge Thomas Stark that Ronald did remember, and he then went on to say, quote, this is the judge, by the way, these were the most heinous crimes or murders committed in Suffolk County since its founding, end quote. Therefore, Ronald was found guilty on 6 counts of second-degree murder and was sentenced to carry out 6 sentences of 25 to life. So he was never getting out.
No chance of parole or anything.
I'm going to sneeze again.
It's because you said it.
Damn.
What's going on, bro?
I had to blow my nose here in a second. So he did. So, yeah, he was never getting out. He did try, though. He made appeals often throughout his sentence, but every single one of them was denied, obviously. This is when things get a little bit weirder. Thoughts on that?
Trying to recall.
The judge said that these were the worst murders in the county.
So what I find interesting is when you're a defense attorney, right?
Yeah.
You obviously are going to know majority of the stuff.
Nelson and Murdoch?
Yeah. Right? They're going to probably come clean to you or at least somewhat tell you what they remember and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
As their job, knowing all this stuff and fighting for kind of a crazy client, I feel like most of these defense attorneys always go the route of insanity. Almost immediately, always. Like every single serial killer or mass shooter, or whatever.
Well, when you do something like this,
it agreed. But are you insane or are you
evil?
Right.
I would say.
Do you have the devil in you?
We'll get there. Yeah, no, I agree. The defense attorney aspect of like law is such an interesting thing. It's like there has to be somebody out there that will take your case, right? You have the
right, of course, they attorney. Yeah. There's always someone appointed to it. Whether what's the word for when they get it for free? I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, it's like the state gives them a lawyer.
I thought it was like,
don't they?
I thought it was like a word that starts with a P. I don't know. Moving on. However, you can't get it for free. You're also given one by the state.
Yeah,
to
somebody
defend you.
has to give you a lawyer.
And that's
so
gotta be tough, dude. I'd rather be a prosecution lawyer.
I feel like it might be. Well, no, I think prosecution would be kind of sick because you just look at the guy and be like, "You motherfucker, I got you. I got your ass."
Yeah, exactly.
Damn,
it's just kind of crazy.
Maybe we should get a lawyer on this pod. That would be kind of sick.
Yeah,
just talk about like crazy cases like this. That'd be crazy.
They've probably seen and heard some crazy stuff.
Drop in the comments below if you think that's a good idea.
And if you're a lawyer.
All right. So here's where things get a bit strange. The multiple stories. While the story seems to end there, it doesn't. Although everyone believed the story was pretty clear, Ronald killed his entire family, then tried to cover it up. Ronald himself actually changes the story on how he killed his family various times over the next couple decades. For instance, he had said his sister Dawn actually killed their father, and then their mother killed Dawn and the rest of the siblings because she was so pissed. And so Ronald had to kill his mother, but he ended up taking the blame because his uncle would come after him if he said anything bad about his parents.
Interesting.
Kind of interesting there, yeah.
I mean, you're already caught at that point. Why are you lying?
I don't know, dude. I don't know. So another time, Ronald said that he was actually married to a woman in New Jersey and that he had to return home to break up a fight between Dawn and his father. So he drove back to Amityville with his brother-in-law. He also stated that his brother-in-law could verify this whole thing, but after brief investigation, authorities were not able to find anyone with the names that Ronald gave.
They just didn't exist.
Just made up people.
So yeah, my brother Trevor, he was with me the whole time.
He's like, go talk to him. Go talk to Trev, bro. Go talk to Yonder.
They're like, sir, we did not find anyone with that name.
There is nobody named Yonder unless they're in Simi Valley. Okay. So one of the other stories that Ronald gave was in 1990. And he claimed that Dawn and an unknown man teamed up to kill their entire family. And when Ronald came home from work, he saw the act and then wrestled Dawn to the ground and accidentally shot her when he was fighting for the rifle. Like, just this guy was just constantly coming up with random shit like this.
He's like sitting there on the stand. He's like, oh, I remember. Yeah, this is what happened. The next day, he's like, can you tell us what happened again? He's like, oh yeah, this happened. And they're like, things are not adding up here.
See, I guess you could say, because like it's one thing if maybe somebody brings up little tiny pieces,
small details change. Yeah. That's one thing. If the whole story, major points of the story change, that's when you know they're lying.
Yeah, you're introducing like people that don't exist and shit. Yeah. It's just like, what are you doing? You know,
maybe he was insane.
The insanity plea does kind of start to make a little bit of sense here.
But he didn't get it.
He didn't get it. And honestly, I'm happy he didn't get it because this is, you can't.
Isn't it better off to be insane because you just go to like a ward or something?
Yeah, it's like Arkham Asylum or some shit.
Yeah, you're not actually you're not actually like in prison.
No, exactly. So while all of these stories are obviously made up, I will say that it's weird that in almost every one of these stories, Ronald makes Dawn look like the bad guy. Like, why is she singled out every time as the assailant?
That's a good point.
So
I kind of noticed that too. I was like, every time Dawn she's up in that shit.
So I don't know. Maybe he just had a bad time with Dawn or something, but
he really didn't like him.
No,
didn't like her at all.
No. So during Ronald's final appeal attempt, Judge Stark, the same judge that handled his trial, gave a quote, one that pretty much sums everything up. Here's the quote. I find the testimony of the defendant overall to be false and fabricated. His testimony that during the fall of 1974, he was married and lived with his wife and child at Long Beach, New Jersey, is incredible and not worthy of belief. He produced no corroborating evidence in this regard. Another reason for my disbelief of the defendant's testimony is demonstrated by consideration of several portions of the trial testimony. He signed a lengthy written statement describing in detail his activities. In this statement, he said that he lived with his family at 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville and that he worked for his father, that he usually went to and work. went to and from work with his father, that he was ill and stayed home from work on November 12th, 1974, that he was on probation for having stolen an outboard engine and had an appointment to see his probation officer in Amityville on that very afternoon. The defendant's girlfriend, Mindy Weiss, testified that she began dating the defendant in June of 1974 and was with him frequently that summer and fall. The defendant's testimony that he did not shoot and kill the members of his family is likewise incredible and not worthy of belief.
So he did have a girlfriend, though.
So he did have a girlfriend.
Interesting.
So where the hell did the wife come from?
Yeah.
It's like, she's probably sitting there like, the fuck?
Yeah, imagine being her and all of a sudden you're just roped into all this shit. Now a wife, and
I think
he roped me into this.
I think the judge pretty much sums everything up in that. Well, it's just saying like,
the judge knew it was all bullshit.
Yeah, he's like, this guy is just, he's not truthful. He's not, it's just, there's no truth to what he's saying.
He had jury, right? A jury.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So obviously when a judge probably makes that statement, the jury's just like, yeah, I mean, plus all the evidence, you got to make a just decision.
Yeah.
Easily. How can you not see that right through this dude?
Yeah.
He knows exactly what he's trying to do.
I know. I know. It's just, it's whack. So I don't know. Guy's fucked. What are we at? We're at 30. Okay. So this part.
More like 25.
Yeah. This part is a little interesting. Just a little. Now, the reason why this case became so famous, what we were talking about earlier, is because at one point, people believed that Ronald made a claim that he was possessed by the devil when he killed his family.
The devil made me do it.
So that's not like the Conjuring movie,
No,
the Conjuring 3. Yeah. That's a different case. But
it's like a similar story.
Pretty much. Yeah. It's like they think that.
Actually, great movie.
It was pretty good, wasn't it? So they're talking about how people believed that he said that. The thing about it, though, is that this guy made so many different claims and he altered his story a number of times. So, like, why is everybody putting their attention to that one? Especially since it wasn't even the first claim that he made. Well, I'll tell you why. It isn't because of the wild statement that he was possessed by the devil that everyone became so intrigued by this case. It was because of the claims by the family that moved in a year later. So now we're going to talk about that. So with all this stuff, we'll talk about it afterwards, but I do want to point out, it's very interesting how it's just a standard murder case. Mm-hmm. But the second that it kind of introduces something supernatural, even when it's obviously fake and faltered or, fake as shit because of the other guys, or the guy's other stories and stuff that he came up with. It's like, why does society kind of gravitate to that one story?
Because it's the one that makes potentially the most sense to them, I would assume.
You think so? Like, what's the point of, why are people so intrigued? Like he said that, all these other stories, but then they gravitate to the one where he's talking about, the devil, I was possessed by the devil when I did it.
Because religion.
Could be religion.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like back in those days, like religion was a big thing.
Yeah.
Clear as day to a bunch of other things we've seen and studied, I think that could be a reason why. And it was out of the ordinary. Like it could be a topic talked about.
Yeah, but the whole thing is out of the ordinary. Right?
It is true.
So that's, I don't actually know the answer. I'm just saying, like, it's just such an interesting thing that, about humans is like, why do we gravitate to the more supernatural stuff as opposed to like,
because like who in their right mind is going, I was possessed by the devil? Like that's
well, then you would probably think like, oh, this guy's just insane. Right. But yet everybody was like, oh shit, spooky ghosts and stuff. And
I don't know.
It's interesting. It's very interesting. If somebody came out today and said I was possessed by the devil when he killed somebody, which I actually think that happens quite often now. If they say that, yeah. And if you see that stuff, it's really just like, no, dude, you're just nuts. So it's like, why did this guy gain so much attention from this? And I will say a big part of that is what happens next. So this is the Lutz family. In December of 1975, George and Kathy Lutz moved into a home on what is now listed as 108 Ocean Avenue.
They changed
the address. They bought the house with no prior knowledge of the DeFeo incident.
They didn't tell him at all?
They had no idea.
Really?
So the thought that a big house like that only being $80,000 was a steal.
Of course it was.
And so they didn't think twice about it.
Oh my God, honey, we're getting this house for such a great price. What's wrong with it? There's got to be something wrong. I don't know, but it's so good. Well, they found out what was wrong.
However, it didn't take very long for them to move out.
How long?
In fact, the Lutz family moved out within 28 days. They didn't even make it a month.
Holy cow.
They ran out of there in a February. Get it?
Yeah.
28.
Yeah.
Anyway, they ran to the press and told them about the house and what they experienced to make them flee the home. Apparently, they noticed green slime oozing from the walls and they smelled the stench of death at certain times of the day or night. They also reported seeing glowing eyes from outside of their windows at night. But the big one was that George said he awoke one night and his eyes couldn't believe what they were seeing. His wife, Kathy, was levitating over their bed. She was asleep, but floating high above him. George had also said that he woke up every night at 3:15, which was the exact time the DeFeo family was murdered.
Interesting.
So some spooky haunted stuff.
So it's crazy that, well, never mind.
What?
I'll save that thought.
No, go ahead. Just say it.
No, I'm good. It's okay.
Okay.
It's okay.
So while many people bought the story, there were definitely a lot who didn't, obviously. Those who didn't claimed that the Lutz family made up those claims to try and make a buck or two off the tragedy, which, to be honest, I thought so too. I figured there's no way they didn't know about it moving into the house.
Yeah, it seems very, very odd that
there's no way
someone wouldn't tell them.
Exactly.
Like, hey, by the way, this was a murder house.
Yeah. Feel like, yeah. And
I feel
2
like-
years later, they moved in. So, I mean, it's like fairly recent. So, I mean, yeah, how could you not? So that is something. So when this happened, they actually enlisted the help of two paranormal experts, Ed and Lorraine Warren. And while we'll dive into them eventually, I want to stay with the Lutz family for this episode. Because, I mean, we're going to have a whole episode talking about Ed and Lorraine. That'll be after this one. So we're good. but yeah,
And they're a part of the Conjuring.
Exactly. So that's a whole thing. This is part of our Conjuring arc. So you guys just, lock in for that. So fast forward to when George and Kathy were old and their children were adults. One of them, Anson Lutz, chose to dive back into the haunting that supposedly occurred to his family. He got all of the old recordings and evidence that was captured when the Warrens were involved and decided to make up his own mind about it. He told the press that he could tell there was definitely a haunting, that his parents were terrified, but there was one issue. Apparently, the events and the hauntings had all been over-exaggerated. Anson went on to say that he believed his parents did so that they could sell the story rights to Hollywood, and Hollywood could make movies about them, which they did. So that's a bit interesting. He claims that there was a haunting,
but they dramatized and fabricated the story to be so intense that they could sell it.
Exactly. And I do believe that the house is haunted. I do.
Sure.
And I'll explain why here in a bit.
It can be haunted, but things might just move in the night, right?
It's probably a bit different than, green slime and all that. Maybe
and
the stench
outside.
of death. I could see that.
Sure.
That'd be crazy.
But the eyes outside,
Nah. Her floating above the bed.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
I just think I'm one of the people who I believe in ghosts, but I don't believe in that kind of shit. Like if I could see like one of our candles fall, I'd be like, oh shit, that's crazy. There's a ghost. But I couldn't see like a ghost picking my big ass up and like throwing me against a wall.
Yeah.
Now, if that happens on this journey in the podcast thing, I'll be sure to tell you guys about it. But I just don't know how that's a thing. So I don't know. I think being a ghost is like, you're not like a ghost. You're like energy.
Right.
So it's like you can maybe gather enough energy to like pull open a door or like shut a door, like slam a door. But I don't think you can like throw somebody or like lift somebody in the air.
Right.
So that I think is, I don't know. What do you think? What do you think being a ghost is? I know you don't really believe in ghosts, but like if you did, what do you think they'd be?
It's a very passive being thing, type of energy that just is trapped in places.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if you can really see people's figures, because if a ghost is real, why would it look like the person who died? Why would it not just look like orbs or floating like?
Well, because your body is dead.
Yeah, but
your soul is not. That's like what I believe.
But your soul isn't your body. So why would it look like the person that died? That doesn't make sense.
Well, wait, when does it look like the person who died?
Well, some people say they see ghosts of like the deceased, like at hotels or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
no, I see
why would it look like them? That makes no sense.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah. I agree with the orb thing. Well, I think it would be cool if like a ghost could be like a shadowy person. The orb thing makes more sense to me because it's like it's your soul.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's
right. That's what I kind of think. I also find it interesting that they were just, if it is true that they wanted to make $1, like kind of it worked.
I mean, it did. It absolutely worked.
It worked.
It absolutely worked. I will say it does. So we're obviously going to talk about Ed and Lorraine, and that's going to be a big deal. But you know,
they brought them in. So
a lot of people believe that they were con men.
Well, of course.
And so,
if you didn't believe in ghosts and other supernatural things, right, you'd think their whole scheme was fake, right?
Yeah.
They'd con you out of money to come in and say, "Oh, there might be a ghost." Or
we have
or
a lot
demon,
to talk about with them, so we'll get into that. But it is a big deal when we're about to. I mean, we're talking about the Conjuring and stuff, and they did handle the Amityville case, so it's
true. That
was shown in the Conjuring. I mean, we're about to talk about that, but like, yeah, let's just dive
Ed
into
and
this.
Lorraine came in. They were in like a deal with the family on selling the story and saying that.
Maybe.
Hey, if we tell you that there's a ghost here and you lift it to this level and sell it, give us a little chunk of the money.
Oh my God! Wait, that just reminded me though. So you know, like psychics. So, I saw a compilation the other day on YouTube, and well, first and foremost, I want to give a quick story. This has nothing to do with Amityville, but it is interesting. So psychics, I don't think we're going to talk about because it's just kind of a thing. I don't know. Maybe we will. I don't know. I don't think. But when I was a kid, I used to have seizures. Right. I used to have like crazy seizures. My mouth would like open without trying and shit. Whole thing. There was one night I couldn't breathe and I had to go to the ER and shit. And it was crazy. But basically we went to all these different hospitals and we never found, like my family, we couldn't find shit. They were like, he's just going to have to deal with this for the rest of his life until one of these probably kills him. So it's fucked up. I was like, damn. And my mom, she was like, I don't really have any other options. So, I mean, because these were doctors who were telling us like, you're kind of shit out of luck. So my mom, she was talking to my uncle. I think it was my uncle. My uncle said, you have to go talk to a psychic. I have like this lady, like she can like try to help you. She like helped me with something. And my mom was like, I don't believe in that shit. My mom's like super Christian. So she was like, all right, like I don't really believe in this shit, but why not? And so she went and the lady told her they're looking at his head. They need to look at his back. And so my mom was like, that's weird. So she goes, we get a chiropractor. And he sees that my spine is like not aligned. Like there's a little part that's like bent out. And he literally just adjusted my back. And all of a sudden I've never had a seizure since.
That's pretty crazy.
It is a crazy story, right? So even with that,
how'd that lady know?
Well, even with that though, I still don't believe in psychics. That is crazy. And if she is a psychic, that's fucking sick. Or she got lucky. Thank you very much.
Or she got lucky.
I think a lot of times they do get lucky because or maybe these other people are just
good
frauds.
At reading people. Yeah, it's true.
There could be actual psychics out there. There could be, but I guarantee you it's not as many as there are people who are acting to be like psychics.
Right.
So,
well, they're trying to make their dollar. These
Oh
other
my God,
psychics
dude.
are like, I'm here to help people.
yeah. So that's why like Ed and Lorraine, like, well, obviously, again, we're going to talk about the whole thing and everybody thinks they're frauds and shit, but we do want to talk about some of the things that they got right because they did get a lot of stuff right. And so we'll get into that. But the psychic thing is just, so there's this compilation on YouTube and it was psychics who get shit wrong. So it's like these people who go on to like morning talk shows and stuff and they're trying to do like their psychic act. And they're like, oh, did you have a, I'm sensing Greg. I'm sensing there's a guy named Greg in your life. And they're like, no. He's like, oh, did you have a pet goldfish? No. It's like 0 for 3, bro. So there's one that's so funny. It's this lady. It's like on a Fox News interview or some shit. And she brings this lady in and she goes, you worked this story about this little girl. And the lady was like, oh, yes. Yes, I remember her. Yeah, she full of dark energy and stuff. And she's like, do you remember what happened to her? And she was like, yes, she went missing. And I can feel her. She passed on to the next life and stuff. And it's just a horrible case. And then the interviewer was like, would you believe it if I told you that this was me when I was a kid? And she's like, what? And she's like, yeah, this is me. And you've been taking money from people and stuff. And then the psychic was like, you're telling me like you've never been missing? And she's like, I'm right here. And then the psychic lady was like, I think we're done with the interview. And she like takes it. It's a funny video. You guys should watch it. But it is, there are definitely con people out there. And it's people, if you're confident enough, people will buy whatever you're selling.
Oh, 100%.
You
and
know?
especially if they're not like smart in the subject, right?
Yeah.
They have no intelligence in the subject at all. What else are they going to believe? They don't know any facts or anything about the thing, right?
I know.
So if you're told something and someone tells you it with a lot of confidence and conveys like an interesting message, you're going to be like, that might be true.
It's probably the same for relationships. When you go through like a crazy breakup or something, and all of a sudden, like the dude comes back to like the girl, and he's like, "Oh, honey, I can change. Like, I promise I'll never do that again." And then all of a sudden, she's like, "I believe you." And then he'll do it 6 more times, and you're like, "I'll believe you."
It's true.
You know, this is when you say something with enough confidence and stuff. I think human beings, we like to believe what we want to like be true.
Well, yeah. And even if it's fake reassurance, it's some sort of reassurance.
Exactly. It's a lot easier of a pill to swallow than the truth, which hurts a majority of the time.
Usually, but it's always the better route to go because if you hurt them that way, they can only be mad at you that way. You're not a liar though.
It's true, man.
Right?
Yeah.
Not feel like being called a liar is a lot worse.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. That's what's Sleeping with Other People, that movie, when they're talking about like how they can't keep a relationship. And he's like, basically when I'm with a girl, she says that I'm like a sex addict or something. And he's like, I don't want to tell the girl, like when I'm with somebody long enough and turns out I don't like them, I can't just tell them I don't like you anymore. He's like, I'd rather just tell you like I fucked your sister. And then he's like, you actually have to fuck the sister for it to be true.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny, but it's a good movie.
That it is.
Anyway, any more thoughts on that? Okay. So now we're going to go into books and movies because Amityville might just be a house, but the entertainment world thought it was so much more.
Impact on pop culture.
Absolutely. Novels, movies, even a comic run have all been made from the home in Long Island. And it really made every single one of these things made the home feel like a true house from hell.
Any music?
I don't think so. I don't think I saw any music.
I don't know. Maybe
somebody came out with a song. Dude.
That would be wild.
Your next like song. Amityville. Anyway, from a trilogy of movies to a remake starring Ryan Reynolds to being included in the second installment of the Conjuring series, the story of Amityville House has been a staple within the horror community. And while the truth may not be as exciting as those movies make it seem, The house has become an iconic piece of horror history that almost anybody could identify, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, thoughts on that? Did you watch any of the old movies and shit?
I had watched the original Amityville. I have not seen the one with Ryan Reynolds.
You haven't seen the one with Ryan Reynolds?
Mm-hmm. But obviously I've watched the Conjurings too. So
yeah. Ryan Reynolds plays Ronald. They actually dive into the murders in that one.
Does he actually do well in the role?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, you see him play like a psychopath, which is a little different from Ryan Reynolds playing Deadpool in every movie.
Yeah.
But it is interesting. So
yeah,
I would say it's worth a watch. It's probably dated by now. I remember watching the Amityville movies on the AMC like 30 days to Halloween or 30 Halloween, whatever that thing is, countdown to Halloween thing that they did.
Yeah. I'll have to give that one a watch at some point.
I think it's on Max. So
cool.
And you can max out with Twisted Tea.
God, I could go for a Twisted Tea.
A twee. Wish today was Saturday. All right. Other owners. For a while, the house was foreclosed. Then, before being bought by some more owners, it was offered for renting. And I actually have a story about that, but more on that later. The next owners of the house never said anything about ghosts. In fact, the majority of owners who lived in the house said nothing about ghosts. However, it did seem odd that the people were moving in and out quickly. But a paranormal investigative team caught up with one of the owners who stayed for less than 6 months and asked if she had moved out due to a haunting, to which she replied, "No ghosts. I moved out strictly due to a divorce with my husband." So while it seems that nobody else thought it was haunted, I have one theory about this. Sure, you could say the Lutz family made up the hauntings, but at the same time, they did receive a shit ton of attention afterwards. And with these other owners seeming like private people, I'm going to guess that they just said that it wasn't haunted due to fear of being in the public eye. The reason I believe that is because of this story about the house.
I would probably do the same thing. I don't want people coming and interviewing me at my doorstep trying to get information on a place I used to live in.
Think about it. The fact that the lady moved out
quickly,
like under 6 months, and a paranormal team still wanted to talk to her.
Yeah.
Like, just they never said anything. Like, she just moved out and people are asking questions. Imagine if you said, "Yeah, I saw some shit." You're getting
you're in the paper,
dunked on by attention.
You're getting the paper.
Yeah.
You're all over the news. People are showing up at your door trying to get a story, trying to get a statement from you.
People driving by your house and being like, "Oh, there's like the Amityville house." Oh, it's. Yeah, so that's my theory, is I think that it was just there's definitely some shit there, but it's people are private. Not everybody likes the attention.
Well, you would think there has to be shit there if people are moving in and out like that. It's just,
I would agree.
The turnover at a house doesn't happen.
No.
Unless something's going on.
I know. And you could give all the excuses you want, but when numerous people are moving out and there's not just been one family that stayed there for a while. I mean, we'll talk about the people that live there now, but so this is kind of a personal-esque story in a way. I'm slightly connected to this. The Jets' time at Amityville.
Like the NFL team?
Yes. Now, as a Dolphins fan, I hate talking about the Jets. I'm kidding. That was a joke for my dad. Love you, Dad. But when I told my dad, who played for the Jets in the early 90s, that I was doing a story about the Amityville house, I swear he jumped up and down with excitement. So the story goes that a few of his teammates, some really big Samoan guys, rented the house for a month. They just wanted to see it and stay in it, see if the rumors were true. Mind you, these guys are all massive 350-pound dudes that could throw anyone the length of a football field. Well, apparently, they didn't even make it to day 3. They said that they woke up with their eyelids frosted shut in the dead of summer. They heard frightening noises coming from downstairs, and they felt sick the entire time. And I know one of these guys. He was massive, and he never took shit from anybody. Really, this dude was a bad dude. Not in a bad way, but he's not a guy you want to mess around with. So frankly, myself, my 6'7" ass, I wouldn't even mess with the dude. But the fact that he ran out of the house scared shitless, yeah, I'm going to say I believe the place is haunted.
Now, is that statements from them?
What? Like what they said? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Does any part of conspiracy side of you, especially for me at least, go, maybe they were paid off to continue bolstering the idea of this house?
No, because they said it was never in like a newspaper or something. It was just like
I'm just curious.
They went to the house and then they told the rest of their like teammates, like, don't go to that house, bro. Don't go to that house.
Okay.
You know, I mean, in all my research, the fact that I couldn't find anything about that and I had to just, it was my dad's like story.
Right, yeah.
I mean, so
interesting. I mean, yeah, then something's got to be wrong there, you know?
I just think it's like, God, I hope we get to experience something like that on this journey. I can't wait to, I told you guys, like, we're not going to be fake on this podcast. So I'm hoping to God that we get some kind of experience like that. And when we do, it's going to be real. But we're not going to bullshit you and tell you like, oh, something happened. Here's a big red circle. And oh, look at this. You know,
it might be freaky though in the moment.
Oh, I'm stoked for it. I'm going to be freaking the fuck out, dude.
We'll see. Like if we're like touring like some abandoned asylum.
Yeah.
And I'm holding the camera. We're just following with a flashlight, looking around this place, and just some shit goes crazy.
Uh-huh.
It's like straight out of a movie, but
I know, dude. It's wild.
We'll see.
I'm excited for that. I hope that we get some of that, but we'll see.
We will. In due time.
So this is our last section of the episode. Amityville today. The house is owned by private owners who don't want anybody visiting the place.
Really?
To be honest, I completely understand that.
It would be annoying if people were driving by, you know, still looking at your house. You're like, can I just live in like peace and privacy, please?
Exactly. And they probably want to forget what happened in that house and just want to enjoy their home. So if you're listening to this, do not go and stalk the house or mess with the people. Let them live. Because regardless of what kind of haunted stuff happens in the house, whether it's real or fake, something real did happen in that house. And we should respect those who perished in the horrible act of evil committed by that son and brother, Ronald DeFeo Jr. As for Ronald, he died at age 69 at the Albany Medical Center in New York on March 12th, 2021. His cause of death was never revealed, and sadly, the truth of what happened that night went along with him. But I'll leave you with this. Ronald did send letters to the press, often discussing what happened that night and changing his story. But one sentence stood out to me. It read, quote, "There was no demon. You know who the demon is. I am the demon." And we're done.
Interesting. I thought you mentioned, was it the Amityville house that you said they actually took the windows out?
Yes. So that's another part of the house. They changed the address and the quarter circle, like the very identifiable windows, are now gone. They're just, I believe, squares.
Still a window?
I think they're still windows. Yeah. But, they've completely changed like the look of the house so that people can't really identify it.
One thing I do find interesting is these people haven't moved out though. So
no, not yet.
How long have they lived there?
I don't know. It just says they're a private family. The last couple families that have lived there, there's not really any records on how long they've been there and stuff. They're super private. They don't want anybody messing with them, which I fully understand and agree with, you know, so.
Okay, stop yawning. Jesus.
Yeah.
That story it's really sad.
What do you think, man, of the overall thing? Like, what do you think? What do you think about it?
This dude's story changes, claims he's now the devil. He's the demon, whatever. The dude was a psychopath.
Shit about his sister.
Dude's a psychopath. Mm-hmm. Plain and simple. That's odd behavior, and it's weird that, you know, there was no claim, there was no other story about him ever having like loose ends up until that point, you know?
Well, I
like
think
maybe not even from his like aunts and uncles or anything. It's just like nothing from him.
like, what do you mean?
Like no claims that he was ever off, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's just all of a sudden one day, snap, done. Family is killed and he is just getting away with all of it at that time until he obviously, you know, gave himself up.
Well, I think, the fact that there's no, I guess,
There's like no history of like, you know how sometimes serial killers or just killers in general, they have a fucked up childhood. They have it seemed
there's
like
a motivation.
Yeah, exactly.
There was no motivation with this guy.
Yeah, it's just like, I just did it and I couldn't stop. Like, but why? You know, why?
I think we can definitely look at the case itself and kind of listen to like maybe some of the clues there. Like, he obviously didn't like his sister Dawn.
Right. That's pretty obvious.
That's very obvious. I don't think he liked his parents, or at least one of them. I don't think he did. I think he, wanted them gone.
He shot them twice.
Yeah,
That's
I think he wanted Dawn gone. But I do think that at that point, he probably, he said it himself, he just couldn't stop.
Right.
So I think then he started going after the other siblings.
But, sometimes when people take lives, they often kill themselves as well.
Yeah.
He didn't.
No, he didn't.
He just went to work.
Yeah. Which is, it's an interesting thing, man. I personally, I don't get it. I don't think anybody will ever understand it other than him. And he's gone now. So,
like, is this house in, like, suburbia, or was it, like, off in
it's a suburban house.
It is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a really nice area, actually. If you go check it out on, like, Google Maps and stuff, you can check it out. But
because when I think of it, I'm like, I obviously am picturing the Conjuring house just for like, it's off on like a plot of land. It's kind of secluded from the public. No, I know. I know. But that's what I'm thinking is this house is like too.
So it's not as close
like this,
as we are in, like we're in a very kind of tight suburban neighborhood. I mean, I wouldn't say tight, like we have a nice backyard, but this is like you're kind of away from each other.
Yeah.
But still in like
you can
suburb.
still see a house, right?
Yeah, but you probably got like a pretty decent sized lawn.
Yeah.
We barely even have a lawn. So, yeah. I don't know, man.
Inside a killer's mind, dude. I will never understand it.
It's interesting for sure. But I'm I can't say more intrigued, but I am like intrigued by how this case just really kind of took off and turned into something paranormal and stuff.
Yeah.
And like it became a pop culture
thing.
I know. And
it is kind of crazy because at first it's just, it's just another murder story.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the devil gets added and
everybody loses their minds.
Spawns just a pop culture smack in the face. Like all these movies, ideas, other stories, it's just kind of crazy to think about.
It is wild. But that is it. We hope you guys enjoyed the Amityville episode of the Supernaturals. No, seriously, we genuinely hope that you enjoyed.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for bearing with us here.
Yeah. And we'll talk about Ed and Lorraine next because that's going to be juicy. So not really. I mean, it's not like it's really not that big of a deal, but yeah, we'll talk about some of their cases and things like that. And then the episode after that will be about the Conjuring movies, the deep dives, and we'll have fun facts in there for you guys, maybe things you don't know. But this is kind of our little 3-arc story about the Conjuring in a way, because hey,
starting from the root,
they're releasing the last movie this year, The Conjuring 4, and I guess that's supposed to be it for the Conjuring universe, as far as I could tell. So no more Nun, no more Annabelle, no more none of that. So we'll see. See how much money it brings in.
They always say that, and then if it does really well at the box office, they'll be like, "Yeah, well, let's make another one."
That's why I'm like, when they're talking about the new Hell House,
yeah,
and like everybody knows Hell House now.
Right.
It's really taken off in the last year, I would say. So when they announced that this next one's going to be the last one, it's like, we'll see. Money
talks. Money talks.
Money is one hell of a drug.
Well, yeah. Thanks for listening, tuning in, guys. It's been another great episode of The Supernaturals.
It's been a dark one.
It has
Been a little dark, but hey, happens.
That is life.
Should I pull up a joke? Should we end with a joke?
End with a little lighthearted.
I'll end with a joke. Let me just say some shit. Let me find a joke.
Some shit. Just kidding. No, remember, you can find us on socials, not TikTok anymore at the moment. Instagram,
it might
YouTube.
be back by this time. So
We always have our video podcast posted on YouTube for free if you guys want to check that out. Also, we still have our Patreon. Patreon members, thank you. We appreciate you. Exclusive content, some wind ups, wind downs.
Exclusive content. We have an OnlyFans?
Jesus. You know, you can see some cool UFO videos behind the scenes. It's pretty fun. So give that a check out if you want. Have you found your joke yet?
Okay. Why does a ghost go crazy on Black Friday? He's a bargain hunter. And we'll end there. See you guys later.
Thanks. See you around the graveyard.
Thanks for listening to this chilling episode of The Supernaturals. For your protection, make sure to like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. And stay tuned for the next episode.